So policing matters for a moment. After the 2012 Marikana tragedy, the Farlam Commission recommended that an inquiry into policing and crowd control be set up. The panel of experts comprised of security experts, police union representatives and senior SAPS officials. Today, Police Minister Bheki Cele released that report. eNCA's Manqoba Mchunu is following that story and joins me now for an update. And Manqoba, it's fair to say that this was a long-awaited report. It would seem, in fact, it was concluded, I think, in 2018. Any explanation from the police minister what took so long for this report to be released, and did it have to take the events of recent weeks around public order policing and the outrage that flowed from that for us to get a glimpse and commitments that this report is being actioned?
Well, certainly not to us. We didn't hear a lot as to why this particular report has been delayed. We do know, of course, that it was commissioned back in 2016 following those recommendations by the Farlam Commission of inquiry into the Marikana massacre. And, of course, the concern at the time to us was the issue around the public order policing and how police carried themselves, the use of excessive force when it comes to some of those protests. Of course, this has been a picture that we've been seeing over the recent years, quite a number of incidents that involve police brutality and cases that involve police brutality. The recent, of course, as you've mentioned, the issue of Mthokozisi who was shot in a protest in Bloemfontein. But I want to get more from the minister himself to us. Perhaps he can answer that question. Joining me now is the Minister of Police, Bheki Cele. Thank you, Minister, for your time. Let's start here. Minister, you've had this report for the past 2 years. Why only release it now? And surely it's a bit too late, considering that there have been events like the one of Mthokozisi.
Well, absolutely not too late. Yes, I agree, 2 years. But many of the things raised in the report, it's got 136 instructions to be done. Some they've done. One of those is a training of the POP people. We have trained them to have a first aid. Every car, especially those that they attend to this situation, they have a first aid pack and one person that is learned. We have improved the equipment there, the communication. The Farlam instructed us that we must be accountable and transparent. Hence, we have put together several people that will come with the cameras and all that. So things have been done. The compensation issue, as we have said, 176 million has been paid as a compensation for the loss of livelihood. There are other things that we are checking on. The cabinet has instructed that the 10 people that died before the 34 died, we must look at that. Yes, it took some time to put it on the table, but the instructions and recommendations from some of them have been already implemented.
Okay, let's talk about the use of force, Minister. Of course, this is an issue that you've been facing in recent weeks as police, and the brutality of it all, the cases that have been opened against police for using excessive force. What is your stance going forward as police? What is your action plan in terms of dealing with crowd control, but at a minimal level of force? What is your call to members as we speak?
Well, I understand you that we're talking about the crowd control, not generally the use of force where there are violent situations where we're dealing with criminals. I'm sure we're not dealing with that, the cash heist, the house robberies, the bank robberies. Indeed, Manqoba, on the day when Mthokozisi was tragically killed, there were 25 protests in South Africa, 25. But you don't know anything about the other 24 because they were properly handled, so they did not make news. Almost every day that will be average, is between 25 and 30. So which means most of them are handled properly. Most of them don't have the issue that make news out of them because people have been trained to deal with those matters. And this one, for some reason, people did not do what they were supposed to do. What happens then are two things. We need to respond as the IPT has responded and people are arrested. But the National Commission also need to look at the internal processes of how do we respond on those things with the commanders and the individual on that particular day. We would have loved to say we don't have this situation, we don't talk about them because they don't exist. There is one thing that it does give the back foot to the police. Remember that there is a decision of a Concord that says people have a right, they always had a right to march, to protest unarmed, without violence. But this thing would happen where the responsible authority like municipality manager will invite the organizers, sit down with the police, give us the route, discuss the route, the numbers, the time. That does not happen now. Police are usually called to when the protest is on the roll, and they are called when they need to intervene when there is violence. So it does put them in a little bit of a back foot that they did not know how many people will be there, what time that those people will be there. But the training of dealing with that judgment of Concord and the Act is trying to work on that to say Amapoisa must have a little bit of time and a little bit of preparation rather than to court when the protest is on the roll, when the protest is already on, is having violence.
And the issue of rubber bullets, you did mention that you are looking into this particular issue. What exactly are you looking at in terms of rubber bullets? Could we see them being stopped?
I think it's a standard operation that we're looking at. But we have looked around. We have had more input from different organizations. National Commission spoke on it. We are not looking at cutting off and stopping it. I know that that call has been made. What is a standard operation, practice on it, is a training, things that are supposed not to be done, things like your distance, where to use your rubber bullet, are you using it direct, you shoot down. These bullets, rubber bullets, should be scaring people off rather than hurting people. So I'm sure they were re-looking at training of it, re-looking at the standard operation of it, but to say that will be cut off at the present moment, there are no suggestions from the experts to say cut them off. They say make and improve its usage.
Okay, thank you. Minister of Police Bheki Cele speaking to us there, Tula Sizwe, about some of those recommendations that were made by the panel of experts. Of course, keeping firm that the issue of rubber bullets is going to remain. Rubber bullets are still going to be used, but there will be some changes to some of those standard operating procedures.
All right, we'll have to wait and see. One can only hope, Manqoba Mchunu, right, that there will be some improvements, particularly if the police minister insists that we will retain the use of rubber bullets but control their use strictly. One will have to see if that improves the situation. Certainly when you think about how Thokozisi Ntumba died there through the use of rubber bullets, and he wasn't the first one to be killed in that particular way. It makes you wonder how long can we sustain this argument that rubber bullets are an essential part of crowd control, especially when crowds are not being violent.